I get a lot of requests about different ideas, and again, you don't tell anybody the ideas suck because you don't want to, beat anyone's dreams down. But you have to show them, on an analytic standpoint that says this has already been done. This is the market, share, and this is the competition that's out there.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by Michter's and 291 Colorado Whiskey.
And joining the Fred Minnick Show is entrepreneur Freddie Figgers. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good, Fred. How you doing?
Well, anytime I can talk to a fellow Fred or Freddie, I mean, it's a day of winning. I mean, we got a good name, don't you think?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Now Freddie Figgers that's the kind of name that it sticks in your head. No one's gonna forget that name. That's a great name.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you like? So do you you got any cool nicknames that go with Fast Freddie Figgers?
Fast Figgers, that's something that we're doing with NASCAR. So yeah, that's one. Growing up, my family, called me Fred. So that was my nickname, and that's still my nickname today.
This is just basic Fred. I love it.
Yep, Fred.
I love it. So what we're doing something different on the show, and to those listening and viewing, I will not be partaking in the tasting. So this is the first time I have ever done an episode, Freddie, of me not actually doing the tasting. And here's the deal.
Oh, wow.
In the NBA, they call it load management. I call it liver management. So, I had to I saw all the tastings I have come up. I was like, I've got to trim some tastings here. My liver's not going to be very happy, come the weekend, and that's so. I appreciate you. I appreciate you talking to a dry me. I may not be as interesting though, without me drinking. I don't know, but we'll find out. So you have got some great whiskey in front of you. I sent you my Wilderness Trail pick. It's a 6-year-old. Just absolutely delicious. As you can see, this bottle and I have been good friends. I sent you some a really nice Canadian whiskey. That's a rye. It's called Lot 40. This is one of my favorite Canadian whiskeys, and I'm excited for you to try that one. And then I sent you what is arguably one of the best new brands to come out in the last year, and that is Lucky 7. And this is the Jokester, they call it. So very, very, very exciting to see your thoughts on these. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your career, because you started working at 13. You were a serious player at 13. What was that like, being an entrepreneurial prodigy? What was that like? Give us the story of how you got started and kind of became a tech nerd.
So, oh gosh, I'll have to go back to my basic beginnings on that. I was adopted by older parents, and my parents that adopted me my father was going into his 70s. My mother was going into her late 60s. So physically, they wasn't able to really take me outside and play sports, but I always had a passion for learning, reading books and technology. So my father bought me a 1989 Macintosh computer from Goodwill, a thrift store here in North Florida. And I took that computer home and noticed that the computer would never come on. So noticed that the power supply was bad, some of the capacitors was broken, and the circuit board was damaged. So my father, he was a maintenance worker from Florida State University, and he had a soldering gun. So with that soldering gun, I used to go around the house taking parts out of, the radio, the alarm clock, and, put them inside of this computer. So the beautiful thing about that is I was able to get that computer to finally working. Mm-hmm. Once I was able to get that computer to working, I then noticed that the operating system on the computer had crashed. So I really couldn't do anything with it. So I had to, rebuild the operating system. So that was my first entry to technology. Fast forward a little bit, I was a computer technician at the city of Quincy. And how I got that job at the age of 13 was I was I guess you say a teacher's pet for an after school program. Mm-hmm. And with that, I was cleaning up the classrooms, repairing old computers. And the executive director of that program was the mayor of the city that I came from at that time. So she was like, hey, I want you to come look at these computers that we got at the city and see if you can repair them. So I got to ask my parents for permission first to get in the car with you. So it was very early age. Called my father, and my father was like, hey, boy, I hope you haven't gotten in any trouble. And I was like, no trouble at all. So went down there and looked at those computers, and that's how it really got started.
Wow. And then you started your own company, not too long after that. And of course you hold multiple patents, but tell us what does Figgers computers do? Are you give the audience kind of a feel for your companies?
So Figgers Computers was when I first started out. I was 15 years old repairing computers. So I defunct that corporation, but Figgers Communication is the corporation that we have now. That's my passion, and I'm the president and CEO. But Figgers Communication is an American telecommunications company that provides cell phone service, mobile broadband service, and international calling services. But we also manufacture our own smartphones and consumer electronics such as television, earbuds, AI technology, and healthcare devices. Figgers Communication also, is the only minority independent-owned telecommunications company in America that provides these services for aggregation through satellite.
Mm-hmm. And you could take a look at you use the color blue. Like blue is it seems to be like your branding color here, and we're both wearing blue today. That was by design by me, by the way. I want, but we did not plan on matching. And
not at all.
It's like we could both be going to the Derby together. We both got the Derby outfits.
Let's go.
So, what is your, when you're talking about like, the wireless side, and you're talking big competitors, you're competing against AT&T and
right.
Boost Mobile and, companies like that. What's it like to be in that industry? Because I think most of us, we all rely on these technologies, but very rarely does the audience get to hear from someone who's in there in the muck fighting for for ears and what have you to as a job. So what's that like to be in such a highly competitive industry?
So for us personally, I turn the motto in, don't look at it as competition, but you look at it as market share. Mm-hmm. Because there's certain parts of America right now, there's rural America that still has 2G and 3G. If you go to the Midwest or you go to, the Northeast, there's areas that still have 3G, or some areas don't even have phone coverage. So as being a public service utility, we go into those areas and we provide the service that's needed, from voice to text to data. When you think about rural area USA, let's just say Montana, certain cities in Montana, mm-hmm. there's areas that the other carriers, the big four carriers are not going to go into because the return on investment is not there. The population is only, less than 2,000. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to go in and invest the infrastructure to put their network there. And then the return on investment will take 10, 20, 30 years. So that gives us an opportunity to come in and, run our last mile from either doing it through satellite aggregation or doing it through a local exchange operation network there to hand off and provide those services to give you the same type of service that you'll have with any of the other carriers. And again, when you think about that, let's think about car manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple manufacturers, but there's only a popular brand that, in the US that you ever heard of. But there's brands out, from, for example, what name Toyota, for example, that have the technology that supplies other bigger, car manufacturers that you never even knew.
Yeah, that's a good point. So are you this is in this model, you're essentially like, if the world is the, your business is the sea, and you all are all, sharks, everybody's like feasting on like one whale carcass, you're going off and, finding a different thing of food there. So that's a solid strategy. What are some of the challenges though with like developing something in rural America, because that infrastructure's not there? I mean, you gotta build it from the ground up.
Yeah. So what we usually do when we're looking at areas that don't have the infrastructure and we have to build things out, we look for the long-term longevity. So again, we're not going to just come in and just, invest and build this infrastructure if we're not going to be there for a long term. But also one thing that we do is, if we're going to be there, we impact there locally. We hire locally. We tie back in from our foundation to local, local operations there. And then we also, provide, local, economical services there as well. So it becomes a challenge in certain areas that, it's just hard to penetrate. But again, that's when we use satellite aggregation to go to the last mile.
So is the FCC a pain in the ass to work with? Because everything I read about them, they don't look fun.
If you're doing everything legal, you'll never hear from them. If you have your, some bands up too high, or you do some things that you shouldn't do, or some irregulations, you're going to hear from them.
All right. So I think in the last year too, we've seen a very interesting story develop with 5G, and that Bill Gates is a part of like some kind of evil conspiracy. Now, are you in on that too? Are you you got a couple G's? Get a special thing?
No. So our Figgers F3 phone is a 5G, phone. It's a smartphone that has multiple user profiles. So, for example, say I say, Fred, let me borrow your cell phone. Chances are you're going to tell me no, because I can go through your phone, go through your text messages, your pictures, everything. With our F3 smartphone, you could sign into a guest profile, and you don't have to worry about any of your personal content. So it's like a multiple profile for users.
That's kind of like a computer. Like I can do that with my Mac. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or Amazon Prime or something. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. That being said, I still don't want somebody having my phone. Not that I have anything to hide, though, Freddie.
Right. Right.
But let's go ahead and jump into the whiskey. Let's start with Lucky 7. Now, are you typically a whiskey drinker?
I am not, but you know what? I am gonna get me some Lucky 7. Let's go.
All right, so go ahead and pour a little bit here. So the thing that basically what we're drinking here is you're drinking. I'm taking the water cleanse here for the liver.
All right.
But so you're sipping on some a 6-year-old. This is a Kentucky bourbon, and it is when this whiskey went into the barrel, it was clear as the water from your tap. So that age, this all comes from the barrel, and you're a businessman, and there's not a quicker way to spend money than to start a distillery. I mean, there's so much money that it takes to operate something. And then they wait 6-7 years before they pull it out of the barrel, and they have to pay taxes every single year while it's in there waiting, and then they can't actually get any revenue out of it for 6-7 years. So, I mean, it's a hell of a way to lose money, and it's why you don't see a lot of like new distilleries coming on, is because it's so honestly, it's expensive. And if you don't have $20-30 million to drop on a facility, you're not building a very decent distillery. So
Right. Exactly.
So in your portfolio of business, do you have any food and beverage in there?
No, not food and beverage. Only healthcare, technology, aviation, and cellular.
Things that actually matter to the world. So
No, whiskey matters. Whiskey
whiskey
matters.
absolutely does matter. So go ahead and so as you're like so take a look at the take a look at the whiskey and look at it kind of in the air. You just kind of give an appreciation for the color, and then and when you smell it with your mouth open. By smell it with your mouth open, you can actually pick up more than just like the alcohol fume. So smell it with your mouth closed, and then smell it with your mouth open.
You're gonna have me on the floor over here with this.
And
So
and now
I poured a little bit in the top, and let's try it.
what do you normally drink?
Nothing.
Oh, really? You're not a drinker?
Sometimes, but no, not like. But listen, this is strong. This is good, actually. This is very good.
Yeah, I only send the good stuff to my guests, and this is one that is Lucky 7 came out last year and became like a fan favorite in like in the whiskey community, and is definitely this is something that is on a lot of people's radars. Like, oh, I want to get that. So, and the 6-year mark actually to me is like the best. Between 6 and 10 years old is usually when bourbon is at its best. What
I
is
still have the liquor behind you, so yeah.
Yeah, and that's just a small portion of it, but when you taste for a living, you kind of develop a huge I guess a massive amount. And all these bottles are open and enjoyed with friends as well, so I share like we're doing today.
Thank you.
So you hold several patents, and tell us about those. And you don't have to give out the secrets or anything, but I'm always fascinated with the intellectual property side of business.
So yeah, I built some pretty unique things. One of my first inventions came from a tragedy in my life, was with my father. Again, I was adopted by an older family. So my father had dementia, Alzheimer's. So it would be some days that he would forget to put on his shirt or he'd forget to put on his pants, but he always remember to put on his shoes. And he would just wonder. So my dad used to go and walk and get lost.
Yeah.
And so, being the tech guru at an early age, I had to figure out something for him. So I built a circuit board and put into the sole of his shoe. I integrated that with a 90 hertz speaker, microphone, a WAN card, and I tied that into a Garmin and TomTom system that I had. And this is way before Google Maps or Apple Maps, so people don't even use TomTom anymore. I don't know. They may, but I don't know. But I had a system that I could say, "Hey, Dad, where are you?" I would come in as a loudspeaker on his shoe, and he could hear me, and he would say, "Fred, where are you?" As soon as he says one word, he would pop up on my computer or my Palm device, and I could, jump in my car and go get him. I see exactly where he is. And I sold that program for a little bit over $2 million. And that was my entry level to start, inventing and building other different things and, applying to go to the FCC to become a public service utility. Some of my other inventions were, again, I've always been the type of person that I'm going to figure out a solution to a problem. And I'm going to assess every situation I can. So I don't just build things to just say, oh, I built this, let's get a patent on it. And now it's just sitting there on the shelf. We built a motorcycle helmet that has a 360-degree camera that's built inside of it with Sirius satellite radio, Bluetooth capabilities, AM, FM, and LTE. So, you look from your right corner eye, you can see everything that's behind you. Because when you think about a motorcycle driver, how do they switch lanes? They have to turn their head, and that could be fatal. So that's one of our inventions. The next one is
Is that on the market right now?
Yes, I'm getting ready to have that acquired.
Oh, wow.
So next technology is from our first cell phone that prevents texting and driving. I live in Florida, so texting and driving is is very bad. As soon as the phone is in motion over 10 miles per hour, it automatically puts the SMS and the data into airplane mode. So you're not allowed to text and drive. In order to send a text message out, your phone has to be under a threshold of 10 miles. So you have to slow down and you have to send a text, or you can turn your entire phone into a Bluetooth device that can send a message out. That's the second one. The next one is, and I have it right here, is our Figure Smart glucometer. So when you think about somebody with diabetes, they have to prick their finger and check their blood sugar and write it down. With the Figgers glucometer, as soon as you check your blood sugar, it instantly shares the results to your cell phone, shares it with your closest relative, shares it in the patient's electronic health records, and it shares that with the insurance company. So everyone sees your blood sugar. If your blood sugar spiked or abnormally low, it automatically sends an Amber Alert notification out to everyone that's on your list. As well as, I took the same concept of the technology that I built for my father's shoe and I implemented it to the glucometer. So if the doctor calls 2:00 in the morning and says, "Hey, Freddie, your blood sugar is 304 and it's spiked at abnormal levels," and I don't answer the phone, that's not a problem. With the click of a button, he can come in as a two-way communicator, as a walkie-talkie, and say, "Hey, Freddie, I need to schedule an appointment for first thing in the morning, or I need to get EMS services out to you." That's one. The next is a portable electronic health record system that ties into the back end of EMRs and EHRs. And I've got a whole bunch of them, so I can bore you all day with them.
So but, I bet you there's a bunch of stuff that you have came up with and you've never turned it into a product, right? You probably have
Oh yeah.
Like what's an idea that you've had that just didn't make it? It has a great idea, but then when pen went to paper, you're like, I'm not going to do it.
So it was funny. During COVID-19, I built a ultra medical freezer that could sustain temperatures under 80 degrees Celsius. So, and that was going to be for the Pfizer vaccine to really help out and support. And I built all of these capacitors. I built these temperature gauge. I had this liquefied natural gas, which is AKA a bomb. And it just never went anywhere because of how the distribution went through the Pfizer vaccine and how they're working everything now.
Yeah.
But that was one of them.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what is it? Everybody has an idea. It's like I've written 7 books, and I'm convinced that there's everybody in this world feels like they have a book in them, and I feel like everybody in this world has an invention in them. How does give us some tips on like how to take an idea and turn it into an actual invention, because you see commercials on there from people all the time trying to take money from people to get their ideas patented and put out there. So what are some tips you have for potential inventors?
Okay, so those companies that you see that advertise those type of commercials, again, those are for the entry level that says, "Hey, I got an idea. I want to pay you guys to put it on paper, to get a patent for it, and they'll sit it on the shelf." Avoid those. Again, I don't speak negative about anyone's business, but just avoid those, because again, it depends on what type of patent you want. It's 2 types of patents. You have a utility patent, and that's how something functions, and you have a design patent, and that's the shape of something, or how it looks. My primary focus have always been utility patents, because utility patents control the functionalities of the product. If you have an idea and if you can show how this product can work or how this product can look, you can easily, do a, quick patent search with the USPTO and see if it's something out there like it. Chances are they may have been something before that, but there's different variations that you can change that. So, if it's a box, you can change the box design into a little smaller box, or you could change the functionality to work around.
No, that's awesome. At some point, you also need to have someone to tell you your ideas suck.
Yeah.
It's
I get a lot of requests about different ideas, and again, you don't tell anybody the ideas suck because you don't want to beat anyone's dreams down, but you have to show them on an analytic standpoint that says this has already been done, this is the market share, and this is the competition that's out there, and this is how it won't go anywhere. So you have to put it on paper for them, basically, and provide facts.
Well, I think that's interesting, and I don't have like an inventor's brain. I have a storyteller's brain, but I have so much admiration and for people who create, and so my hat's off to you for really building something that's genuinely helping people and is an integral part of our society. I mean, I grew up in the rural area, and there would be like one like pole that serviced like an entire,
exactly
2 or 3 miles. And if that pole went down, we were all shit out of luck.
Yeah, everything went down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was our advantage point of to breaking into the telecommunication industry, to show that there are companies out here that's willing to go into these rural areas, that's last mile, and to support.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, your logo and your packaging, the blue and all that, I think it's a real nice touch. So now we're going to go to the Canadian whiskey of the bunch. And to lot 40, and just kind of sip it as we're talking. Let me know what you think of it. But are you only in the United States? Do you also service like Canada as well, or other countries?
Yeah, we're in we've serviced over 90 countries. We provide service pretty much everywhere. We have a data center in Africa. We have one in India, one in South America. So yeah, we ship globally every day. I mean, every single day. I mean, we ship globally.
That's awesome. Do you have like you said you have
now?
do you have some do you have data server or data farms, or kind of like you hear about the stuff in Nevada and Arizona, they've got like these huge data farms. Do you have anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. We have those all spread across the world. So again, not only do we just provide the service, but we manufacture. So, our phones are globally unlocked. So our phones come with 56 LTE bands. So if someone says they want to order a phone and they live in Europe, or somebody says, hey, I live in South Africa or Taiwan, and I want to order a phone, not a problem. We ship directly here from the US and we send it to them. And they just, get the phone out the box, put it into their local, carrier, and it's activated and ready to go.
Wow. I'm just absolutely fascinated with your story and just you building yourself into, a communications mogul, because this is like the sexy thing in the world right now. Everybody wants to, get into, telecom, Yeah. But
and it's funny too, because back in the 90s, no one really, so telecom has flipped so much. Back in the 90s, to do something on just the voice side was so expensive because everybody wanted voice. Now no one cares about voice. Everyone is like LTE. They want data, and they want to run voice over LTE packets. So it's just amazing how the trend has flipped. If you think about back in the 90s, no one, people thought the internet was just a fad. It's going to come and go. But now, people hardly talk on the phone. SMS is more important than voice connectivity. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I tell my team that all the time, like, hey, no, don't you send a text. Let's get somebody on the phone.
I remember in college, I was in agricultural communications journalism. I have a degree in that. And I remember one of my journalism professors said, my industry started out was kind of like newspapers. And I remember my professor said, everyone will always want to hold a newspaper in their hands. Like newspapers will never go away. The internet will not hurt the newspaper industry. How wrong was he?
Very, very, very much so. I mean, listen, personally from myself, I have gotten, gosh, over 40 different offers to buy some pretty big chain newspaper outlets. And I declined because when you look at those numbers and how they went down, I mean, it's sad to see that how, you know, they've already become antiquated, but you know, they're going to be a thing of the past. They're going to be archived. Like our kids and grandkids are not going to even know some of these newspapers even exist.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, I, as someone who has spent time in actual archives as a historian, I get excited about what the future archive world looks like, because it's going to be like, you know, a memory disk of someone's email history or something like that. Like paper is so on its way out in everywhere.
So when I was growing up, I remember, you know, everybody used to store everything on zip drives, and everybody loved zip drives. Then everybody said, okay, zip drives are a thing of the past. We're going to floppy disk, 3.5-inch floppy disk. You can't find a floppy disk anywhere right now. If you find one, it's something wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely, what did they hold, like 56K? You know, those floppy disks.
Less than that. Less than that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I could maybe put in one story on there, but you know, so you're a private company, right? You're a private company. Do you ever like think about going public?
No, because the thing about it is, if I go public, the moral attitude of the company would change. When you look at some of the Fortune 500 companies right now, they forget about the end user, and they forget about the most important thing of all. It's the consumer. It's your actual customer. So all of our products are affordable. And again, if I went public, you know, it would go from being affordable to returning shareholders' investment. So I don't look at that. You know, again, all of our products, I want to keep them affordable. I want to go above and beyond for all of our products, and I want to tie back into our foundation. And that's one thing about all of our companies, from our technology company, aviation company, and health company, and even the wireless company. They all tie 10% back into the gross revenue into our foundation, that we do things globally to impact.
Right. What do you and you do the foundation works locally, like you work, you know, to improve communities. Yeah.
So our foundation does so many different things. We have a school in Africa that has over 309 girls. Even with COVID-19, you know, we spent a little bit over $2 million. And we provided personal protective equipment, over 2.6 million pieces of personal protective equipment to first responders throughout the country. So every health facility, law enforcement, and underserved community in the state of Florida, they got it. We went to Georgia, Elmhurst, Jersey, New York, you know, Michigan, cut over, and just went all the way down to Washington State, California, Arizona, just pretty much everywhere. I mean, it got to the point where, like, some of our fleet vehicles, we put over 100,000 miles on those just to support going back and forth throughout the country. And you know, when you look at the educational sector, what we did was something a little bit different. We built laptops and donated, you know, to school systems throughout the country, and enabled those laptops with LTE cards for students can have internet access to log in, to do distance learning.
That's absolutely amazing, and you know, you're doing it in some areas that need that extra help. What did you think of the Canadian whiskey?
I liked it. I think the Lucky Seven.
Lucky Seven still the leader in the clubhouse, huh?
Lucky Seven, yes.
All right, so now let's go to the Wilderness Trail.
All right, Wilderness Trail.
And this is the gentlemen who own this distillery are very like-minded with you. They're entrepreneurs, and they're inventors and scientists, and they specialized in like yeast, and they started their own distillery in Danville, Kentucky, and it's been one of the greatest success stories of the last 10 years in American whiskey. So, also privately owned and highly sought after.
Awesome. So wilderness trail.
You're sipping a small business there. So, do you?
Pretty good.
A company like yours is definitely going to be on, like, if you're a conglomerate like AT&T, you're looking at people you can buy, and I gotta think Figgers Communications is right there. They're circling it, they're eyeballing you. Do you ever think about that, or is that something you're just like never selling?
So one of the larger carriers have approached us about 7 or 8 times to buy us out, but again, we declined because again, we're the only independently owned telecommunications company in America. So we're not looking to sell.
God, that's got to stick in their craw. They're probably in the back room. What's it gonna take to get this guy to sell to us? And they're
it's been some trials and tribulations, some funny things too as well. So yeah,
a little, and I've heard this about some of those types of companies. It gets a little mafioso, and I hope you don't have to deal with any of that. But
we had to, again, when you step on their toes or you're trying to go into their territories. I mean, again, they got big name lobbyists that will fight you or make a phone call to DC. So we try to duck and dodge that all the time.
Really?
Yeah. So it becomes tiresome. So I mean, again, they fight. Everyone fights with each other, but we have our own market share that we go after. And if the general consumer wants to come and get a Figgers phone or even just a Figgers service, that's fine. That's fine with us.
Awesome. Well, what did you think of the Wilderness Trail?
I like it. It's very good. Very good. I like all three, Wilderness Trail, Lucky 7, and, the Canadian whiskey. So I like all of them.
Nice. So you got to pick a favorite, though. What's your favorite?
Lucky 7.
Lucky 7's your favorite. Oh, yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
So you like, my guess is, based on you liking Lucky 7, you probably like cinnamon rolls. You like, so like icing kind of stuff. Am I hitting? No,
I hate sweets. I don't like
you
sweets
hate
at all.
sweets?
Yeah. So it's gonna be. I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna say from Wilderness Trail and Lucky 7. I can't really pick. It's probably gonna be Wilderness Trail. I like
okay,
that.
so you are going Wilderness Trail, but it's a tight race. Yeah. It's a tight race, and looking in the distance, longingly, wishing it did better for your palate, is Lot 40, thinking to itself, "Why couldn't I have one here?" But man, it was really great. It's really great to talk to you and just talk about business. We have musicians on the show, and we usually talk about creatively, create the creative nature of music. But there's such a creative nature to business as well, and you express that so beautifully. And I'm all excited. I'm gonna go get on the Figgers site right now and maybe buy one of those special phones for my kid.
Definitely, you'll love it.
Will your phone work in areas that you're not set up already? Like, does it jump
absolutely.
onto?
Absolutely. Our phone works globally. Again, and it works on an airplane. So if you're 30,000 feet in the air, we can turn it in sat mode.
Not that you're supposed to do that though when you're flying.
You're not supposed to do that. So, we gotta blurb that out. So,
yeah. Now you won't get in trouble for saying that.
We only have that enabled for like law enforcement or elected officials. So yeah,
that's right. And you, my friend, have been elected as our entrepreneur of the show here. And I hope to have you back on. I hope to hang out with you in person one day. I'll actually be in Florida, very soon. So, like, what part of Florida are you in?
I'm in South Florida. I'm located in Parkland, Florida.
We're gonna be in Orlando to see the mouse. So,
all right, going to Disney World.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully, I'll survive. But and Freddie, thank you so much for coming on, and tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and your company website.
Definitely. All of my social media is Freddie Figgers. That's at FreddieFiggers.
Awesome. Go give him a follow, folks. He's, you'll be seeing a lot more of him in the news. I guarantee it. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you so much.